everyone, welcome to the channel. So today I want to talk about Elio, which premiered at the box office this weekend, and so far it's not doing well, which many people anticipated. With only 21 million at the box office currently, meaning that DreamWorks' remake of How to Train Your Dragon is still number one, which I hate to see, but here we are. I did see Elio, and I'll have a full review of it coming soon, and I just feel like it didn't really hold up to what we would expect from Pixar. Like, I didn't think that it was a bad movie at all, I just thought it was fine, which is not what we want to see from Pixar, especially when they poured so much money into it. There are people who are saying if you want to see original movies in theaters, then go to support Elio even if you're not really that interested in it. And I understand where they're coming from, because it would be good if original animated movies did really well at the box office to tell the companies that we are interested in these movies. But I also think that Pixar probably dropped the ball on this film, both in its marketing and also in its general appeal. I'll get more into it in my full review of Elio, but it was just kind of underwhelming. But I do think that there is obviously a market for original animated movies. Like, for example, on Netflix, they released a new movie called K-Pop Demon Hunters, and that's currently number one. And I think that movie probably would have done really well at the theaters instead of just on streaming. And K-pop already has a very large fan base, but so does Pixar, so I feel like it's still pretty comparable. I might talk about K-Pop Demon Hunters too. I personally enjoyed it. But yeah, I think this was probably Pixar's fault more than anything else. But let's get into the article now. Universal's How to Train Your Dragon had no trouble staying number one in its second weekend with an estimated 37 million domestic haul despite the entry of the highly anticipated sequel 28 years later and Elio, which limped to 21 million from what marks the lowest opening ever for Pixar amid a glut of family box office hits and a troubled marketplace for original animated fare. I wonder if 28 years later would have done better in like September or October or something instead of the beginning of summer. Meanwhile, as you can see here, How to Train Your Dragon is still killing it at the box office, having made 360 million worldwide and playing in thousands of theaters across America, along with the world. So I think there's a lot of reasons for that, the nostalgia factor especially, and I went over that in my last video, so I won't touch on it too much here. But it is admittedly pretty disappointing. But they also go on to talk about 28 years later, which also underperformed, currently is underperforming, I guess. Like Elio, albeit to a lesser extent, Danny Boyle's zombie sequel also opened behind expectations domestically with an estimated $30 million from 3,444 locations. While a solid start, it will need strong legs to justify a planned trilogy for Boyle and Sony. Isn't it technically already a trilogy though? Because it's 28 days later and then weeks and now years. Huh. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm a little confused why they would say that. But overseas, it also took in 30 million for a global bow of 60 million. So at least not as bad as Elio. There's that. Oh, I forgot about that too. Final Destination Bloodlines also just came out. So maybe there's like competition between the two. But a few weeks ago, 28 years later was tracking to open 35 million, with more bullish pundits thinking it could become between 40 million and 45 million. Similar to the family space, some are speculating that the horror marketplace may be oversaturated, led by box office hit Final Destination Bloodlines. Yeah, that's probably a big contributing factor too. Facing fierce competition from How to Train Your Dragon and fellow Disney release Lilo and Stitch, Elio opened in third place. The pick is playing in 3,750 theaters domestically. The returns were just as bad overseas, where it opened at a paltry 14 million. Yeah, it's really sad to see Pixar have these kinds of numbers. Maybe it'll turn around the way Elemental did. I guess we'll have to see. But Elio, an original film about a young boy whose wish to travel to outer space and interact with aliens comes true, was expecting to open with at least 30 million domestically, but with interest stalling in recent days, Disney insiders lowered their projections to 20 million to 25 million late last week as Pixar braced for the worst three-day opening in its history behind Elemental, which also did less than 30 million, in June of 2023, and again, that did eventually have a comeback, so maybe Elio will see be the same fate. But it also says that Toy Story from 1995 also had a very rocky start. But that was also kind of a special situation because it was the first 3D movie, and I think people were very skeptical of the technology back then, only for it to eventually become the industry standard. Which is cool for Pixar, but also disappointing for 2D animation fans. But that's another issue. So moving on. Not adjusted for inflation, Toy Story made $29.1 million. Toy Story opened over Thanksgiving and amassed $39 million over the long 5-day holiday weekend. So it managed to have a bump in sales because it was a longer weekend than most would experience. But regardless, in 2023, Elemental's opening was called nothing short of a debacle, yet it turned into a sleeper hit on its way to earning nearly $500 million globally. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I think it's also that Elemental was kept in theaters for longer. Pixar and parent company Disney are confident that Elio will have the same sort of staying power throughout the summer when kids are sprung from school. So far, Elio is graced with a better critic score on Rotten Tomatoes than Elemental, as well as a 90% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, glowing post-track exit results, and an A cinema score, including an A+ from kids. So people who did see it seem to enjoy it, which is a good sign. I personally wasn't that impressed with it, but that's just my opinion. Pixar has been struggling to find its footing in a world where original animated stories don't open to the heights they once did. Think north of 70 million. The slowdown began several years before COVID. Since Pixar's Coco in 2017, no original animated title from Hollywood studio has launched north of 40 million domestically, which is definitely sad to see. There obviously have been large hits like Inside Out 2, but that was a sequel. But this is again why other people are saying to support Elio even if you don't really care for it. But I do wish they'd put out a stronger showing personally. During the pandemic years, even when cinemas were back up and running, the regime led by then Disney CEO Bob Chapek decided to send 3 Pixar titles straight to Disney Plus domestically, including Turning Red, Luca, and the Oscar-winning Soul, a decision rivals said taught families to wait and watch the film at home. All 3 were considered streaming hits. They might have been right. Among all animated original films from any Hollywood studio, only 2 have opened north of 20 million since the pandemic, Encanto and Elemental. Yeah, I do think that's a good point. A lot of people will probably just wait for these movies to come out on Disney Plus instead of going to the theater, because they're going to be on Disney Plus in a matter of months, really. Possibly weeks in some cases. And families are their target audience, so... And Elio didn't really seem like a film that you have to see in theaters, and it's probably just worth waiting for. That's probably what I would recommend, honestly. If you are interested in seeing it, just wait for it to come out on Disney Plus. So I think Disney probably shot themselves in the foot with that. I'm sure they thought it was a good idea at the time, but time will tell. But Pixar and Disney have since reversed course and are once again committed to telling original theatrical stories, mixed in with known IP, such as last year's blockbuster and record-shattering Inside Out 2, the top-grossing pick of 2024. Again, it was a sequel. The top ever title for Pixar and the top animated movie of all time, with more than $1.69 billion in worldwide ticket sales, not adjusted for inflation. As fate would have it, Inside Out 2 opened the same June weekend a year ago. So I think it might be interesting to compare what Inside Out 2 did and what Elio did, and maybe try to find what was more appealing. I do think that Inside Out 2 had a stronger story and stronger characters, but again, I'll get into that in my main review. The live-action Lilo and Stitch remained a force to be reckoned with its 5th weekend as it flew past the 900 million mark globally. Yeah, that's gonna hit $1 billion. But again, no surprise there, really. The blockbuster fell a scant 38% in North America to place 4th with 9.7 million. The record-shattering film boasts a domestic tally of 386.7 million and 523.6 million overseas for a global treasure chest of 901.3 million. Overseas, it topped Elio for the weekend with 19.7 million. So considering the fact that Lilo and Stitch is in its 5th weekend and is still beating out Elio in some markets I think it says a lot. Yeah, I think the marketing was not strong with Elio, and I think that it's just a fine movie, and that's not really what we're looking for when it comes to Pixar. But at least the people who did see it generally seem to enjoy it, even if it's not their strongest movie. So that's the current situation with Elio. I hope for Pixar's sake that it does improve, but I'll get into my full review and then we can get into the movie proper. So in the meantime, let me know what you think about all of this. Do you think that Elio has a chance still? Do you think Elio deserves these numbers, or do you think that Pixar just messed messed up the marketing. Let me know in the comments below, I'd love to hear from you. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our members. Tyrant Carnivore, Shiny Orc Boy, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JVR, Equestron, Norman Sweet Cream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Hunter Rose, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Felix Bam, Lucas Geist, J Draws, Meowsers, Sky, Philip, Isaac Martinez, Garcia XB Legend, Tobias Weller, Bandito Bane, Mac B909, Dakari the Professor, Todd McCaffrey, Omnifair, Cavalcoj, Strider Exile, Phil C, Killer Bomb, Slawa Saporiguez, Entwined Boot 301, Griffin of Might, Frankie Camarillo, Datadyne Executive, Crimson Phantom, Jin the Goblin, Papa Hud 69, The Gengar King, Daunter, and G-Rock. Thank you for the support, and if you want to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.